Hey guys, it's Affinity with another Reddit story time. Now this one is a little different and way longer because when I originally recorded this, it was only 3 parts, and by the time I could get to editing it, it was at 10 parts, and I didn't want to keep you guys waiting. So this story is called Some Psychopath is Trying to Become TikTok Famous at the Expense of My Daughter by the user MTP6921. Now I gotta give you a warning, before I start this video, that there are some graphic details in this story. So if you are unsettled by any graphic gore or anything like that, I recommend you click off this video. And if anything becomes triggering to you, just click off, be safe, and I really hope you enjoyed this story. Yeah, and that's all I have to say. Enjoy. Part 1. The world of TikTok and Snapchat and whatever other emerging social media platforms that my 11-year-old daughter watches has always been something I found as being childish and didn't interest me much. However, when online news media outlets like Yahoo and MSN would derive their stories from TikTok, then I said, why not at least give TikTok a try? I was pleasantly surprised by TikTok on its numerous topics. People post about everything from cats to military to true crime video posts. Some of the posts on TikTok I do find childish, but eventually TikTok has filtered them out and honed in on things a 38-year-old guy likes, like true crime mysteries. I love watching videos on people who have mysteriously vanished or grainy footage of unknown suspects who have never been caught. So given that my daughter has just left a few hours ago for a weekend retreat at a Girl Scout camp, I decided to indulge on TikTok. The old Girl Scout leader, Macy, had gotten diagnosed with cancer, so she had to regrettably step down, but thankfully another mother has volunteered to step in as the new leader. With my separated wife, Sheila, who is still trying to find herself, I am just happy that my daughter Grace has something to do this weekend rather than just mope around the house feeling depressed. The new leader, Carol, was nice enough to pick up Grace along with her own daughter Raquel and another girl named Amanda as well and drive them to a campground in Poconos. Carol sold me on her years of being involved with the Girl Scouts, so I'm going to do nothing more than relax this weekend. I start to swipe through TikTok videos and find mostly crime-related posts that I've seen already, so I decide to expand beyond the people I'm following to see what's new on TikTok. A post came up that caught my attention because it said Girl Scouts tragic camping trip that was posted by @SerialKillerBlossoms. I really didn't want to watch the video because I didn't want to get paranoid and draw parallels to the possibility that something similar could happen to Grace on her current trip. Whoever coined the phrase "curiosity killed the cat" probably was thinking of some numbskull like me. I clicked on part 1 of the video that was posted 5 days ago, which showed the outside of a small yellow unmarked school bus. The creator of the video then showed the interior of the bus, which looked like your typical smaller bus with about 6 rows of seats. The camera person pointed to various video cameras installed throughout the bus. I wasn't sure the intent of this part 1 video. I didn't know if this bus was part of a crime that had happened in the past or just some type of converted recreational RV. My interest was waning, but I decided to click on part 2 anyways. This time the bus was moving and I could make out kids on the back of the bus. The video camera was by the driver and I couldn't make out much more than there was about 3 kids sitting on the bus. Then, with just a few seconds left on the TikTok post, a different camera angle is shown. As I'm sitting on my living room couch, I start to make out the faces of the kids. They appear to be middle school age kids, and something inside me tells me to look at when the video was posted, which was 3 hours ago. When I see the girls are around my daughter's age, I typically get a sense of empathy because whatever is going to happen in the series of TikTok posts isn't going to be good, and I never want anything bad to happen to my daughter or anyone else's kids. But this time, my brain couldn't get over a hump because one of the girls looked spot on to Grace. However, I didn't want to commit to this theory, so I played part 2 again. Unfortunately, I can't fast forward the video, so I have to wait again for the last few seconds. As I'm waiting, my mind is going through the ifs. Most importantly, what if the girl is actually my daughter? As the video nears to its end and zooms in on the girls, my worst nightmare comes true as I take a screenshot of the video. My daughter left wearing a Niagara Falls souvenir sweatshirt that she bought a few months ago. Also, the two girls look like Amanda and Raquel. My thoughts instantaneously go to, why is my daughter sitting on a bus and not Carol's car? And why is someone videotaping the girls? I quickly click on part 3 of the video series, which was posted 2 hours ago. This video shows the 3 girls still sitting on the bus, where each of the 2 other girls are sitting in the aisle ends of the back seat, and my daughter is sitting right in front of them. I could tell right away by my daughter's facial expressions that something isn't right. Grace isn't crying, but I could tell that she looks like she is confused and scared, where Raquel and Amanda have the same frightened facial expressions. I really start to panic as I reach for my phone and attempt to call Carol.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again.
What the hell? I say out loud in a confused tone. Then I try to call Grace's phone, which goes straight to voicemail. I fall deeper into this nightmare as I frankly try to find the phone number for Amanda's mother. Grace's mother, Sheila, used to deal with all the Girl Scout issues, so I'm limited with contact information. Luckily, I'm able to get into Sheila's email account, where I look for a Girl Scout's name and phone numbers. I find Amanda's name with her mother, Joy's phone number, so I quickly dial the number. Hello, Joy, this is Grace's father, Ted. Are you aware of Carol taking the girls on a little yellow bus to the camping trip? No, Carol picked up Amanda in a blue Mercury stable. Why do you think they're on a bus? Listen, you're on your cell phone right now, right? Yes. I'm going to send you a TikTok video. Please watch the video and call me right back. Sure, send the video. As I sent the video, I didn't know what my next step should be, but calling 911 was definitely going to happen in the near future. Within a couple of minutes, I got a return call from Joy. Ted, what's going on? Why is someone filming our daughters? Joy said in a hurried, frantic voice. I have no idea, but I don't have a good feeling about this. Did you try calling your sister Carol? My sister? She ain't my sister. She's Raquel's mother. Ted, that woman Carol told me that she was your sister when I met her before the camping trip. Well, she told me that she's Raquel's mother. Oh my god, that woman isn't Raquel's mother, Joy said in a perplexed tone. Oh god, who is that psychopath? You know what? Grace's mother, Sheila, used to go to all of the Girl Scouts meetings, so I'm not familiar with all the parents. What do we do? I'm going to call the police, I said. Okay, and I'll call Raquel's mother. I'm never called 911 before, and I'm nervous to begin with, so calling 911 makes me even more nervous. 911, what's your emergency? My daughter went on a Girl Scout camping trip with 2 other girls and a woman, Carol, who has seemed to have lied about her identity. Okay, so what's the emergency? I came across a TikTok video of someone posting the 3 girls on a little yellow bus and not the Mercury blue Sable that Carol picked them up with. Okay, so what are the girl ages and what are they doing in the TikTok post? They're around 11 years old and they all look nervous and scared. Okay, so could they just be nervous from being away from home? I suppose, but this woman Carol lied to me and said that she's the mother of one of the girls, but she's not. She told one of the other mothers that she's my sister, which is obviously not true. Okay, sir, I'm going to send an officer over to your house because there's kids involved, but we have a really busy night with a lot of things going on, so it might take a while for the police to show up to your house. Wait, what? Why? I responded. Listen, sir, you haven't told me anything that sounded like your daughter or the other girls are being harmed, so we have to prioritize our available police officers. Listen, I didn't give this woman permission to videotape my kid, and I'm certain these girls have been kidnapped, and I have no idea where they're going, I say in an angered tone. Well, sir, I have a daughter that's in the Girl Scouts, and I have personally experienced when the leaders are dealing with multiple parents that sometimes things get lost in translation, so I wouldn't rush to judgment yet. All you have is your daughter on TikTok video sitting on a bus going on a Girl Scouts camping trip where she could understandably be nervous. Listen, my house address is 664 Mockingbird Lane. Hurry up and send someone over, I said in an angry tone as I hung up the phone. The video cameras on the bus are pointed in a direction so the viewers can't see the outside of the bus, so I don't even know if they're headed to the Poconos. It's pretty dark outside now, which worries me even more. It's such a sinking feeling seeing that my daughter is in danger. I look to see if part 4 has been posted, and it has, so I click on it. Again, the girls are being videotaped as they're just sitting on the bus. The unnerving thing is that none of the girls are talking to each other. The 3 of them look like they're completely petrified, doing nothing more than just looking straight ahead. The girls remind me of the war videos I watch of D-Day and how my daughter specifically had the same doomed look as the soldiers had, while they sit on the transport boats waiting to storm the heavily entrenched beaches. The video was posted less than an hour ago, and the video is darker than the others, so I could tell that the video was actually taken about an hour ago. My phone started to vibrate as I see that it's Joy calling. Hey Joy, listen, I called 911 and they're sending someone over, but apparently they have more pressing issues. More pressing issues? What the hell is more important than 3 girls being kidnapped? The 911 operator thinks that a crime hasn't necessarily been committed or that it isn't even an emergency situation. She thinks the girls could just be looking nervous because they're scared about going on a camping trip and being away from their parents. Well, who the hell gave that Carol permission to videotape my daughter and post the video on TikTok? And who the hell is Carol? And why is she using @serialkillerblossoms as a username? You know, I was so frustrated with the 911 operator that I didn't even mention the username, but I doubt that would make a difference. @serialkillerblossoms is a new account and only had the 4 videos posted. There's not too many people who have viewed the videos so far, which is good because I don't want them to be taken down for violating a TikTok policy. Ted, I really don't have a good feeling about this. Should I drive to the Poconos, to the Red Squirrel campground? The thing is, you can, but I'm not sure if the bus is even going to the campground or even to Poconos. The campground is less than 2 hours away, so they should have been there by now. So what should we do? Joy asked me while I can hear her crying over the phone. Who is this Carol person, I ask. I really have no idea. When Macy got diagnosed with cancer, her story was plastered everywhere on Facebook, and the fire company even had a fundraising dinner for her to cover her medical expenses. So she could just be some random psychopath that came across Macy's story and figured, hey, this is my opportunity to kidnap some kids. What's her motivation? Is she trying to get TikTok famous? Getting TikTok famous for kidnapping girls and taking them on a camping trip? Joy said while still crying. That's when it dawned on me, the naive mindset that Joy was having. I'm guessing she hasn't seen the countless videos of the horribleness this world has to offer, like the idea that there's people who kill just for some type of sick fun, like the eerie picture of the notorious serial killer John Wayne Gacy, who was dressed up as a clown for kids' performance. Joy hasn't paid attention to the fact that the hashtags serial killer and hashtag crime video were used in the video post, hence why they came up to my video feed. If I thought that this Carol person was just videotaping them going camping, I probably would be a little mad. However, nothing about her actions or the videos point to her future actions as being harmless. While I'm on the phone with Joy, I see part 5 has been posted. Listen, Joy, part 5 has been posted, so I'm going to hang up and watch it. I pray the girls are alright. Try to find any possible information about that Carol woman. Bye. I really didn't want to play Dr. Phil with Joy, as I know my daughter's fate rests in the hands of these video posts. I click on part 5, and besides the light from the video camera, I could tell that it's pitch black outside. The video camera pans the surrounding area as I see thick forest with nothing more than trees. I haven't seen the girls yet, so my heart is beating double time. The camera eventually shows a makeshift campsite with a small fire burning. Based on the remoteness of the surroundings, I'm certain that the video is not of the Red Squirrel campground and is probably in some very remote area based on the thickness of the forest. The camera turns its attention to the small fire pit and then to a small 2-person tent. I can hear the camera person breathing heavy as she walks towards the tent. Every single inch of me is experiencing absolute terror as I don't know what's inside the tent, because so far I've seen no signs of Grace or the other 2 girls. The tent slowly opens and I start breathing to the point where I could go into convulsions at any moment. As the tent is open, I let out a sigh of relief as I see the 3 girls are partially sitting up in the cramped tent, but then my heart sinks to my feet as I see their helpless facial expressions. I focus in on Grace as I see her eyes are watery. She looks like she had seen the inner bellies of hell and is too terrified to move. The camera moves from left to right as I notice the 2 other girls have the same petrified face as Grace. Not a single word is said in the video, and I feel angry and completely helpless as I scream out, "Don't you fucking harm my daughter, you son of a bitch!" Then the video ends. Part 2. I couldn't stop pacing back and forth in my living room after seeing my daughter in that horrid emotional state in the tent, which was one of my worst fears that I've ever felt. The anger has taken me over to the point where I can't even talk straight. What does this monster want with my daughter, and why does my daughter look so frightened, is what I kept asking myself. I'm trying to reenact the initial encounter I had with Carol. I remember her being probably in her mid-40s, where she really didn't let off any kind of emotional concerns, which seems really odd now based on her current actions. As a parent, I was naturally trying to sniff her out, but she passed the smell test. She had dyed brown hair with a few gray roots. She had no marks on her face, and she had an average look. She wasn't overweight or skinny, she was dressed appropriately, and she was answering questions in an appropriate manner. All those things combined make her even more scary, because she was purposely attempting to hide her true intentions. If she was a drug addict, then I would have picked up on her being fidgety, or her appearance would have been more disheveled, but not Carol. She did everything right to make herself look and act like every mother. She was the ultimate con artist, where she completely fooled me. She didn't leave me with anything to follow up on, and she said everything necessary to end our conversation in a prompt manner. Most importantly, she fooled me because she was a woman, and in my mind, I felt at ease at a time when I should have vetted her out better. She wore the best costume as coming across as a mother, so all of my natural guards were down. I know the key to finding Grace is finding any unique qualities that will help me identify Carol based on any type of mistakes that she unknowingly made. She drove a blue Mercury Sable, which is a bit rare in the suburban area. I look online and see that they stopped making the Mercury Sables in 2009. Everyone in this area tries to impress their neighbors by driving BMWs and Lexuses, so anything American built would come across as an eyesore. However, she maintained the exterior of the Sable well enough, where it didn't even stand out, which was why I had to rely on Joy in telling me the kind of car she drove. So I know the car she drives, what she looks like, and she told me that she was involved with the Girl Scouts, which may or may not be true. But why come across as a normal person and commit such a horrible act? And how could I let my daughter go on a camping trip with a complete stranger? Because I thought Carol's actions were reserved for men and not women, who look like housewives. I need to stop pacing and start finding answers fast before it's too late. My daughter's Girl Scout group made a mistake by making their group open to the public on Facebook, and because of that, Carol didn't have to necessarily try that hard to find subtle pieces of information on us parents or our kids. In addition, Macy had a fundraiser for her medical expenses that further opened the door into our lives, which Carol may have attended. I can't believe the police still haven't shown up yet. I guess I'm an amateur when it comes to calling 911. I should have used better attention-grabbing words, like how a person says chest pains to be seen in the emergency room right away. I reluctantly decide to contact Macy, who was the old Girl Scout leader, in the hopes that she will have some insight into this horror show. I find her phone number and I have to proceed with caution because she's not doing well because of cancer. The phone rings several times, and just when I was about to hang up, a raspy female voice answers and says, "Hello?" "Hi Macy, I'm Ted, Grace's father from Girl Scouts. I'm really sorry to bother you, but something disturbing has come up and I'm hoping that you might have some answers." "Hey Ted, I'm feeling kind of weak and was about to go to bed. What's going on?" "Okay, I'll get to the point then. Grace, Amanda, and Raquel went on a Girl Scout camping trip earlier today with a woman who identified herself as Carol, and this is where things get disturbing. This Carol person conned her way into telling me that she was Raquel's mother, and by telling Joy that she was my sister. Someone has been posting the TikTok videos of the 3 girls where they all look terrified, and I don't know where the girls are located now. Do you have any information on this Carol woman? Wow, Ted, this sounds like a horrible situation. Let me ask you, have you tried calling the campground when they were supposedly going? I received a text from Joy where she stated that Raquel's mother had done that and the campground had no one there that fit the girls' descriptions. Did you meet this Carol woman? If so, what does she look like? I did meet her briefly where she looked very ordinary, so much so that I'm thinking it was the ultimate disguise. She had brown hair, fair skin, no marks. She was about 5'4" tall with an average build. Her speech was clear and she acted appropriately. She picked up the girls in a blue Mercury Sable. However, somewhere along the way she transported the girls in one of those little yellow school buses. She also said that she had experience being affiliated with the Girl Scouts. Did you call the police? Yes, and apparently this is not considered a priority because the girls were going on an intended camping trip, and I didn't see any signs of them being abused in the videos. Oh my gosh, let me think about it. I'm having trouble thinking straight with all the chemo that I've been going through. Think about everyone who you've met recently who might fit Carol's description. You know, there was this woman who made it a point to talk to me in the parking lot during my benefit dinner. I remember bringing a box to my car and she was parked right next to me. She did have a blue car that kind of resembled what someone's grandparents would drive. I don't think I had ever seen her prior to that night. We had a brief conversation where she was asking me how I was feeling and things along that nature. I met so many people that night, so I really have to jog my memory to remember her, which is especially difficult because of my current condition. You know, now that I think of it, she did have something that stood out. She wore a ring on the right hand and she had no rings on her left. It's just something that I look at when I meet people. Was there anything about the ring or with her that stood out? Yeah, that ring wasn't your typical diamond or cubic zirconia. It looked more like a class ring or some type of fraternal ring. Not something that most women would typically wear, but not completely out of the realm of possibilities. Huh, you're right. Now that you say that, I can recall her wearing a ring when she opened the tent in one of those videos. Well, hopefully that will help you. Listen, Ted, I can't keep my eyes open anymore. If you could think of anything else, then I'll contact you. Good luck, and I hope the girls come home safe. I went right away to look at the last video again. As painful as it was seeing my daughter in that emotional state, however, I have to take a look at that ring. There still hasn't been another video posted, but it hasn't been an hour yet either. I watched the video and press pause when it gets to the part where she's opening the tent. I have to keep myself together as the tent is a constant reminder of my daughter's current situation. I wish that I could stop shaking and sweating, but my mind is in flight mode to protect my daughter. However, I have no one to physically fight. I'm starting to hate TikTok because of the no fast forward or rewind capabilities built into watching the videos. So I have to press pause exactly at the right time or else I have to start the video over again. I keep on hitting pause and zoom in on her right hand. The video is so dark that it's hard to make out anything. Just when she opened the tent, she seemed to hold her hand still just long enough where I could get a decent enough look at her hand and the ring. Macy was right in how the ring looks a little unusual for a female to wear. The ring is kind of box-shaped and is silver with some type of stone in the middle. That might be blue, but it's hard to tell because of the lighting of the video. I could barely make out some type of letter which seems to form the words. I'm fairly certain based on what I can see that I can make out the words serve and maybe 2019. With the information I have, I go right into Google and type in what I know about the ring. You have to be fucking kidding me. I say out loud as I discover that only after a couple of minutes of looking online, I see that it's some type of police retirement ring which says to protect and to serve. It makes sense now that she has learned how to play her current part from being around every type of thug and seeing how not to act to not raise any type of suspicion. But why is she doing this? I keep asking myself. I always heard that to be a cop, you have to walk on the line of insanity to deal with a continual insane situations. But these are young kids she's messing with, which everyone knows is off limits. Also, what strikes me odd is how methodical she's been. But she's going to wear a ring that might identify herself? Why? The ring is either a red herring or some reason she is purposely leaving clues. I'm thinking it's more the latter, where deep down she's doing this for attention and wants to be discovered. Why else would she post videos of her crime? Because she wants to portray that she has been hiding in plain sight all along. Maybe to justify her actions and seem less cowardly, or maybe she has an axe to grind with her former police profession. Regardless, the clue is there, and I need to act on it right away. As I was about to call the police, another video gets posted on TikTok. Oh God, I say out loud, as I don't want to watch my daughter being harmed. I can't get the image out of my head where the girls' facial expressions look like trapped kittens in the previous video, where the kittens could sense they were going to be harmed. I start part 6, and I can see that the tent has been zipped back up. Carol the psychopath is slowly circling outside the tent to do nothing more than terrorize the girls with her movements that the girls can hear. I feel horrible that my daughter is in the middle of the woods with an adult who has evil intentions. Carol keeps on circling the tent almost like how sharks circle a raft in the middle of the ocean. She stops circling for a few minutes, which probably scares the girls even more. Then, when everything is silent, she intentionally rattles the tent, where I could hear screams coming from the tent, which is the first human noises I've heard in all the videos. You motherfucker! I yell out as I throw a punch into the air. The video ends and I call 911 again. Part 3. 911, what's your emergency? My name is Ted. I called earlier about my daughter who was being kidnapped. Are you the gentleman who resides in 664 Mockingbird Lane? Yes, that's me. Sir, the police have your complaint information in their database, and they will come by your house to speak with you as soon as they can. When this is all said and done, I'm filing a complaint and getting a lawyer. My daughter is being used as a prop in some psychopath's real-life horror movie, and the police don't think this is a priority? Sir, the gas station on Main Street was involved in an armed robbery, so unless you can tell me that someone's life is in imminent danger, then the police won't pull their resources away to deal with a girl that is scared on her Girl Scout camping trip. Ma'am, I'm telling you that my daughter has been kidnapped. I foolishly allowed her to go with someone who intentionally misrepresented herself and now is posting videos of herself terrorizing my daughter and the 2 other girls. What is the woman doing? Well, in the newest video, the girls are seen petrified to the point that they're crying, and then this Carol woman videotapes herself circling the tent and intentionally shakes the tent to scare the girls. Sir, I understand that you're seeing your daughter in a scared, emotional state, and that's worrisome to you, but shaking a tent isn't really harmful to anyone. Listen, you don't understand. This woman is only showing small videotapes. I don't know what she's doing before or after she's taking these videos, and I do know that she's not one of the girls' mothers like she said she was, and she didn't take them to the campground that she said that she's going to take them to. So you called the campground and your daughter and the other girls aren't there? Yes, one of the mothers called the campground and no one there is at the campground, and this Carol woman phone is disconnected. I really don't know how many other shady examples you need to realize that something really wrong is going on. Okay, sir, I'm going to relay your information over to the police again, and hopefully they'll send someone to your house quicker. Listen, I need a detective over here and not some slapdick local cop who's going to look at these videos and scratch his or her head. Also, I'm fairly certain that this Carol woman is an ex-cop who retired in 2019. I was able to identify a retirement ring she was wearing in the last video she posted. Okay, sir, I have your information. I'm going to pass it along to the police. Great. Hurry up. This is my daughter I'm talking about and 2 other children as well. I hang up the phone and continue to pace in my living room. It's the most awful feeling in the world to be filled with such anger and have no way of confronting the person who is harming your daughter. Then I have a thought. What if I sent a comment on this @SerialKillerBlossoms TikTok page with the hopes that Carol will unknowingly send me a clue to their whereabouts? She's posted a part 7 video, and I really don't want to watch the video, but I know I have to. I grab a section of my hair as I start the video, and this time the video starts off with the 3 girls laying on their stomachs in the tent with their hands behind their heads. I press play on the video and grab the ceramic vase that my in-laws got us and throw it against the wall as hard as I can and let out the loudest fuck expletive that I can yell. The vase shatters into hundreds of pieces as I'm lucky the shards didn't hit my eye. I start angrily pacing again as I press play on the video. The girls don't have any sleeping bags and are essentially laying on the bare floor of the tent and their faces down, which must be extremely uncomfortable. I can hear the girls whimper as Carol continues to videotape them. She then puts the video camera on something and points it to the girls and proceeds to take one of the pieces of rope and ties my daughter's legs together. At this point, my head is completely filled to the rim with anger and hopelessness as it can possibly be. The video ends as the two other girls' legs are tied together. I try to think what comment I can write to this psychopath, but then it dawns on me to instead call the police station's non-emergency phone number and hopefully this Carol person will sound familiar to someone. I look up the local police station's non-emergency number and see that I just needed to dial 311. However, I discovered that the phone number is only accessible to 5 p.m. With no other available options, I decide to drive to the local police station, hoping that they have a dispatch person or someone in the office. I hustle to my car and take the 5 minutes drive to the police station. I get into the parking lot of the small police station and see one of the police cruisers with a few parked cars that I figure must belong to the police officers on duty. As I approach the door, I see a big sign that reads, "If you have an emergency, dial 911. The station is not open to public during non-business hours." I disregard that sign and knock as loud as I can on the police station doors. At this point, I almost want a cop to come out so I can show them the last video of the girls being tied up and get help. After knocking for what seemed like an eternity, I can see someone reluctantly coming towards the doors. It's a heavy-set woman in her mid-50s. There's a small window on the side of the door that looks like lab specimens are passed through. She pulls a small window open and says, "The police station is closed. You need to leave and call 911 if you have an emergency. Please listen, I really need your help. My daughter and two other Girl Scouts have been kidnapped by someone who I believe was an ex-cop. Please look at the video real quick." The woman looks the least bit interested, but I put on the video clip as quickly as possible before she walks away. "Oh my, is one of those your daughter?" she says as she watches the girl's legs being tied together. "When did you last see your daughter?" "Earlier today, where I thought she was going on a Girl Scouts camping trip." "Did you call 911? "Yes, twice, and the operator didn't feel this was an emergency." "Well, this video surely looks very disturbing." "I know, I feel so angry and hopeless, but I'm fairly certain that this woman who took my daughter was an ex-cop because I saw her wearing a retirement ring in one of the videos that had 2019 on it, which I'm guessing is the year she retired. She drives a blue Mercury Sable and is about 5'4" tall. She had brown hair when I saw her, but who knows, maybe it's a different color at one time. You know what? Give me a couple of minutes and I'm going to use our radio to see if the woman sounds familiar to anyone on our police force." "Oh, please, thank you so much." I continue to stand by the door for the woman to come back. I start to get really fidgety as I can only imagine what's happening to my daughter. I know this might be my only hope to figure out Carol's identity before it's too late. Finally, I see the woman reappear. "Sir, one of our officers said that this woman might sound familiar to him based on what you told me about her car and the year she retired. I was given a name of Rosemary Black, who worked for a nearby police precinct sometime in 2019. His name is Officer Dan, and he said that he'll stop by here in a few minutes once he's done with his current police call." "Oh, thank you so much. I'll just wait here then." I take out my iPhone and put Rosemary Black's name in Google to try to find any information about her. A bunch of spam comes up with websites that will do a background check for free, so I decide to switch to Google Images. As I scroll through the images, I see a police academy graduation photo from 1999 and say out loud, "That's her." She looks obviously younger, but there's definitely a clear resemblance to the Carol that I met in person. I see a police cruiser come flying into the parking lot that actually has its police lights on, so I can tell he was driving as quickly as possible to get here. He gets out of his car and comes towards me. He's about 40 years old, 5'6", with a muscular build and is clean shaven with short black hair. "Officer Dan, thank you so much for coming. You think this woman is Rosemary Black?" Well, I'm involved with the police union and I was helping out with someone who ultimately got terminated a couple of years ago. She needed union representation and I was one of those people who assisted her in her disciplinary hearing. The Blue Mercury Sable was a giveaway as I remember waiting for her in the parking lot. I was told, you have a disturbing video of your daughter? I get my phone and replay the TikTok video of my daughter and the 2 other girls being tied up. Well, I'm sorry, this is not good, the officer says while holding his right hand to his chin. This Rosemary woman retired from the police force in 2019, I asked. No, she was actually terminated shortly before she had her 20 years of service in. She's very manipulative and God only knows what she fabricated in the past while she worked in the police department. How did she get fired? She just had a way of fabricating stories to the point where she was always intentionally looking to be a hero. Routine traffic stops weren't good enough for her. She always wanted to go on the front page of the local newspaper or on the local news. She's just a very attention-seeking person to the point where it has turned into a mental illness. Even myself representing her for the police union knew that she was detrimental to the police force. What about her retirement ring? Nobody's given a retirement ring anymore when they retire. You have to purchase them on your own, and that's probably what she did. Listen, you saw the video and you can see the danger that my daughter and the 2 other girls are in. Where do you think she might be? One of the videos looks like they're in a thick forested area. Well, I vaguely remember her saying that her father had property somewhere north of Scranton where he was a retired mechanic for high school. That would probably explain the little yellow school bus then that the girls are transported in. Let me radio the police department that patrols north of Scranton to try to pinpoint the area. They'll probably know Rosemary's property as well. Oh, please, thank you so much. I press refresh on the iPhone and see another video has been posted. I slap my forehead in despair as I don't want to know what I will see in this video. Part 4. I refresh TikTok on my iPhone and see that there's a new video involving my daughter. The fingerprints on my left hand dig into my forehead as I know something even more horrific has happened to my daughter. I just can't get myself to press play as these horrid thoughts go rushing through my mind. Luckily, Officer Dan comes back, which distracts me from the video. Dan told me that he was in contact with the local police barracks in the town of Susquehanna, which is a small town north of Scranton, where an officer of the barracks confirmed that Rosemary's family has property in that area. However, because her family's local connections, the local police won't do anything without a search warrant, which won't happen anytime soon. Listen, Ted, I spoke to the captain and I showed him the videos of your daughter and the 2 other girls. The captain has given me permission to take the police cruiser up north to try and find your daughter. Captain feels sorry for making you wait after you called 911 and is willing to take a liability of proceeding without a warrant based on the girls' given circumstances. Typically, we would call the FBI, but that'll just slow us down even more, so let's go right now. I don't even say anything and just jump into the police cruiser's passenger seat. Dan makes his way towards the Northeast Extension Turnpike, where he easily goes over 100 miles per hour. This is the first time I've ever been in a cop car, and I'm amazed how the car rides so smoothly that it feels like we're only going 60 miles per hour. Dan is laser focused on driving that we don't talk much. I know that Part A is posted and that I have to watch it for my daughter's sake, to see what that witch has done to her and the rest of the girls. I push play and see Rosemary drag each girl out of the tent by their legs. I squint my eyes and do my best not to yell. It's really an awful sight to watch an adult woman drag my young daughter on the bare ground, like how a person would drag a garbage can. Rosemary ties each one of the girls to the same tree, where I shake my head in disgust, knowing that there are bears and other animals in the woods. I try my hardest not to look at the girls' faces, but I feel compelled to do so, where it doesn't take a psychiatrist to realize that these girls will suffer from PTSD for a long time if they survive this ordeal. Dan is driving so fast that we make it past Scranton in a little over an hour's time. He starts to slow down and turns his police lights off as he doesn't know the exact location to where the girls are located. I really start to get tense as I realize how rural this area is and the fact that there's basically guessing to a certain degree to my daughter's whereabouts. Dan puts on his patrol car searchlights as he could sense that the location was close, but he needed the lights on to help find the exact location. As Dan is slowly cruising, I can't get rid of these nagging thoughts that since we got off the turnpike, Dan must have made 10 different turns to get us to our current location without the use of any kind of GPS or any other navigational devices. My grandmother used to tell me that she was born at night but not last night, meaning how did Dan know to come here without the use of any kind of directions? According to Dan, he radioed someone, but he couldn't have memorized all of these road names and know to turn left versus right, I think to myself. Obviously, he's somewhat familiar to this area, but how or why? We're driving in the middle of nowhere with nothing but woods and an occasional hunting cabin, so he has to have come here in the past. Something is extremely fishy. What are the chances that he actually spoke with his captain, and why are we doing this alone? I keep thinking to myself. He pulls over on the side of the road to a heavily wooded area and attempts to make a phone call on his cell phone. He says, "Crap, no service," and he puts his phone down in the middle of the console and gets out of the car and says, "I'll be right back." I can see that he's looking into the woods with his flashlight as he walks along the shoulder of the road. I quickly grab his phone and I'm in luck that the phone didn't lock. I go right to his photos and notice that he had deleted all his photos, or he has never taken any photos in the first place. I remember about a month ago that Grace got so mad at her mother for not coming to visit her that Grace erased all the photos of her mother off her phone. I later researched online how to recover the photos and went back on her phone and retrieved the photos, knowing that her mother is having some kind of temporary mental health breakdown, and hopefully she will eventually come around to her old self. As quickly as possible, I scroll through his deleted photos and see most of them were of his police buddies. However, it didn't take long for me to see the monster herself posing in a selfie with Officer Dan, and for myself to then give off a knee-jerk reaction, "Oh fuck," followed by a "you son of a bitch." I quickly pull myself together, knowing that the only person who is here to help Grace and her friends is me. What is the guy's angle? Is he here to kill me along with the girls? Oddly enough, my mind flashes back to when I was in college and my apartment caught on fire. I ran out of the apartment building as fast as I could, but the guy right across the hallway from me, who I talk to every day, died of smoke inhalation. Every day I think to myself that all I needed to do was knock on his door and wake him up, but the moment was too big for me and I panicked and ran out. I see his face every single day, knowing that I have more than enough time to knock on his door and wake him up. I put Dan's phone down and devise a plan. I open the back passenger door, then I lock the same door while keeping the door open. I then take the keys out of the ignition and place them on the floor behind the driver's seat. I get out of the car and stay close to the car as I pretend to look in the woods. Dan starts to walk back towards the car and notices me standing outside the car with the rear passenger door open. He looks inside the car's cruiser and says, "Where's the keys?" where he looks at me with both anger and confusion. Oh, being from the city, I've learned to never leave a running car unattended, so I put the keys in the back, where I point to the floor. Dan looks bewildered to why I put the keys on the floor, but like a rat, he proceeds through the trap anyways. He goes to the passenger door and scoots himself over in the back seat to reach for the keys. The moment that both of his feet are through the door, then I slam the door shut. "What the fuck are you doing?" Dan yells at me as his face turns red. I go and sit back in the passenger seat of the cruiser, which has a bulletproof glass window separating the two of us. "Listen to me. I am not as dumb as I look. I know that you are in some kind of relationship with the Rosemary Pig. Just tell me where they are and I'll move to Florida and you'll never see me again." He's spewing with anger in the back seat of the patrol car like a Supermax inmate who just learned that someone called him a snitch. He tries to unlock both of the back doors as my heart goes into overdrive as I start to sweat because I didn't check to see if the other door was locked. Amazingly, I didn't have a heart attack as I was fortunate that the rear driver's side door has been locked. "You're trapped like a rat and I'm the only person who can let you out," I say to him. "Someone will drive by any time now and see that something isn't right. Who are they gonna believe? Me in a police uniform or you?" This road is so remote that I would be surprised if there's even a single person that lives anywhere near here. Listen, do you really want to go down with her? So far, all you have done is driven me here to help save my daughter and two other girls. Do you really want to ruin not only your whole career, but spend the rest of your life behind bars? Dan kind of looks at me as if I was starting to make sense. "What was the intent of all this? Why was my daughter and the other girls kidnapped?" I ask. I was never involved in any of the planning of what Rosemary has done. Everything I told you about me representing her when she was a cop was true, but I left out the part that I started having an affair with her, which is still going on. She called me a few hours ago with some bizarre idea where she told me that she took these girls camping and some guy, meaning you, would eventually discover the video she posted and try come rescue the girls. Rosemary told me that once you arrived that she was going to stage the whole thing to make it look like you were the kidnapper getting back at your estranged wife, and she was going to apprehend you. Wait, why? I said in complete bewilderment. She thinks this will help her get back into the police force. So the intent was for me to come up here where it would then be staged that I had did something to Rosemary, then make it look like I harmed the girls? I think so. And you want to help this woman. I then look at Dan with complete confusion. Listen, I wasn't the best husband to my first wife, and I've been really lonely for years. Like I said, I wasn't involved in any of the planning of this. She just called me a few hours ago. But I called 911 and everything else. How did she know there was going to be a robbery in town, and that there would be no one else from the police force who would be available to come to my house to talk to me? She paid some crackhead $1,000 to go into the store and rob the place and then run off, which would take a lot of law enforcement resources to try and find and apprehend him, because no one wants an armed robber running around an affluent neighborhood. But she knew this all along, and she was actually calling in anonymous tips to keep us cops looking for the armed robber. However, I'm guessing that he's actually hiding out at Rosemary's house, which isn't far from the actual scene of the crime. Okay, that's some really detailed manipulative planning. That's why she got fired. What about the videos? She has been incriminating herself to the 9th degree. I say with continued confusion. When you first met her, you gave away too much information about yourself. I see that you're not wearing a wedding ring. Yeah, my wife is going through some issues right now. Yeah, I'm 100% sure she noticed that you weren't wearing a wedding ring, and you were either unknowingly or knowingly sizing her up as well. Yeah, I guess. She's a master when it comes to human behavior, and you probably told her something about yourself to try and spark a conversation, to try and get to know her better. I just told her that I was thankful that she was taking my daughter camping, and that I was going to spend the weekend watching my crime-related videos on TikTok. Did you tell her your username? At Ted1976? You know what? Maybe I did, just to subliminally allow her to send me messages if she was interested. Can't believe that I fell in her trap. She must have tagged all her post videos and with all the categories that I'm interested in. You didn't know you were being trapped. You thought you were talking to some decent-looking Girl Scouts mother that maybe you had a chance with. You're right. Think about the videos you watched. All you have is a hand, which is grainy at best. You don't have her car or anything else? What about the girl's testimony? You don't think that she had been wearing the most horrifying mask the whole time to not only terrify the girls but conceal herself? You're saying that her plan is to make it look as though I did something to her and the Mercury Sable, and then make it look like I transported the girls in the yellow bus? That's what I gather. I have such a headache right now. Listen, she thinks you're coming, so let her think that. But instead, I'm going to get the girls. Just tell me where they are, and like I said, I'll pretend that you had nothing to do with this. You should open the back door. Listen to me. That's not going to happen. You have to put yourself in my shoes. I'm here to get my daughter and the 2 other girls. Once I have them, we can talk about what's going to happen next. But like I said, I'll keep my mouth shut about your involvement if you don't do anything stupid. Okay, up the road about 50 yards, there's an access road. You will need the shotgun in the trunk of the cruiser. Have you ever used a shotgun before? Yeah, once when I was an Eagle Scout about 25 years ago. That's reassuring, he sarcastically says. I'm going to pass these keys underneath the seat to you so you can unlock the trunk, he says. He puts the keys underneath the driver's seat and I proceed to the trunk. I take out the automatic shotgun and then I head towards the access road in the pitch black. Part 5. Knowing that my daughter is being psychologically tortured in the woods made me walk as quickly as possible towards the access road with the shotgun. At this point, I cared zero about my life as I was more focused on rescuing the girls. I thought it would be best if I didn't use the light on my iPhone and instead relied solely on the dim light of the moon. I walked with the shotgun held in my right hand and rested on my right shoulder, almost the same way a marching soldier would walk with his or her rifle. The weather feels like it's 65 degrees Fahrenheit, and fortunately there's almost full moon that is letting off an ample amount of moonlight. After about a minute of walking, I see a disruption in the natural trees line in the forest, which must be the access road. My body and mind readies itself for war. I get all tense up as I try to play out the different scenarios in my mind that might unfold. I start to walk through the access road as the leaves on the trees cut off some of the moonlight and it gets darker. I walk a little bit slower to make less noise as I don't know how far back I have to walk. The forest is eerily quiet besides the sounds of bugs and other unknown creatures. There's an ample amount of no trespassing signs nailed to the trees about every 10 yards apart. I've been walking for about 5 minutes as I see the narrow access road open up to a larger field. I start to smell the faint smell of smoke as I now know that I'm not far to where the girls are located. As quietly as possible, I ready the shotgun. I try to imagine myself as a World War I soldier who just got the order to charge over the trenches. I tell myself that if I'm successful, my daughter and the other 2 girls' lives will be saved versus the World War I soldiers whose only potential victory would be about 20 yards of captured land. I see an object that must be the bus about 30 yards away. However, I don't see or hear any signs of the girls or Rosemary. I start to crouch down to make myself less visible. As I get to the back of the bus, I can make out a tent and start to hear faint whimpering sounds, which I figure must be the girls. In my still crouched down position, I move towards the whimpering sounds as I'm constantly surveying around for Rosemary. I have no idea where she is or if she even knows that I'm here. As I slowly creep towards the whimpering sound, I can tell that I'm getting closer and closer as the sounds are getting louder and louder. Finally, I see that the girls are still tied to a tree. I slowly walk towards them as I don't want to startle them, where they would yell and alert Rosemary, where I still don't know where she's located. The girls' face move in my direction as they hear me come towards them. "Shh," I say, to hopefully keep them quiet. "Dad," Grace calls out, where I respond with, "Shh." I look around in all directions and I still see no signs of Rosemary. In the lowest possible voice, I say, "Hi girls, do you have any idea where the adult that tied you up is?" "In the tent," Grace responds. I put my shotgun down and start to untie the girls. My logic is that if the girls are untied, then at least they can run away if Rosemary tries to ambush me somehow. I really have to pull myself together and put these girls' survival over my own, because I was the one who was foolish enough to allow my daughter to go on this trip, so I should be the one to suffer the consequences. I untie Raquel first, then Amanda, and lastly my daughter. My daughter instinctively lunges toward me to give me a hug. "Are you girls positive that the person who tied you to this tree is in the tent?" I say in a whispering voice, where all the 3 of the girls shake their heads in agreement. Knowing that this woman has done to these girls, I slowly walk towards the tent with the shotgun. The tent isn't far from the tree that the girls were tied to. When I'm about 10 yards away from the tent, I release the safety from the shotgun and aim the gun at the tent. With this military-grade automatic shotgun firmly pressed against my right shoulder, I creep a few more feet towards the tent and then push the trigger. Bang! The shotgun lets out the loudest sound that must have woken up everything in the forest, followed by an ugh, which is a sound of release, knowing that I must have struck Rosemary. I fire 2 more shots into the tent, which completely obliterates the tent. I take my iPhone out to use the flashlight and shine the light in one of the holes the shotgun created. I see blood splattered everywhere and Rosemary's lifeless body. Her head seems to be undamaged, so I take a step back and fire a shot into her head to ensure that she is truly dead. Prior to tonight, bugs were the only thing that I had ever intentionally killed, and now I shattered a woman's skull apart. My body becomes less tense and relaxed as I know the person who has psychologically tortured my daughters is now dead. With the shotgun in hand, I walk back towards the police cruiser with the 3 girls. Grace holds my cell phone's flashlight as I can see the 3 girls' faces that look beyond traumatized. At this point, I know that we're still not out of the woods yet, so I don't want to give them a sense that we are all done with everything. As we walk on the access road, no one says a word as I try to figure out what the next best course of action will be. We get back to the main road where Dan and the police cruiser are located and I start to hear thumping noises. "Stay here, girls, for a minute. I'll be right back." As I walk towards the police cruiser, I can see that Dan has almost kicked out the rear passenger side window where the glass is partially hanging out. I can tell that he only needed a few more kicks before the glass will either shatter or completely fall out. So knowing that he has a handgun, I rush towards the police cruiser. I doubt that he sees me rushing towards the car as he's too focused on freeing himself. In a split second, I think to myself that once he's out of the car with his superior use of his handgun, he will have the upper hand, so I can't chance it if he will probably just execute the four of us to leave no witnesses. I'm about 2 arm lengths away from the damaged window as he lets off a big kick and shatters the window, where I quickly point the shotgun through the window and fire off 4 shots as quickly as possible. My heart is racing a mile a minute and my body is completely tensed up. After firing the 4th shot, I look through the opening window and see that I had mutilated Dan and his head is gushing out blood. I probably didn't need to shoot him 4 times, but watching the videos of my young daughter being kidnapped and psychologically tortured brought out the primordial animal inside of me that just wanted to seek revenge on those who harmed my daughter. I didn't want to celebrate just yet as we're still stuck in the middle of nowhere. I placed the shotgun on the hood of the car and decided to drag Dan's body out of the car. I figured it would be best to move his corpse to the tree line so the girls wouldn't be able to see his body. After moving Dan's corpse, I dropped the shotgun by Dan's body and wiped the blood off my hands in the grass. Then I quickly jogged towards the girls. Grace is still holding my phone with the light on, and the girls look so traumatized that they're not even talking to each other. I ask Grace for my phone and I see that I have no reception. I really just want to get out of here as quickly as possible because I don't know if Rosemary's family members will come by or if there were other people involved in her plot. Because of Dan, I have no trust in the police, so I don't want to use the radio in the police cruiser. I don't want to subject the girls to sitting on the little yellow bus again, so I decided to cram the 3 of them in the front passenger seat of the cruiser. Then I get into the driver's seat and drive. I'm hoping that I see the signs for Route 81 or the Turnpike's northeast extension. After driving around for close to 20 minutes, I finally come to a fork in the road that points to Route 81, which I know will lead us to the Turnpike. I don't know what will happen to me for executing 2 people, but right now I'm just focused on getting these girls back home safely. I look at the gas gauge and I figure we should have enough to get us back home. I fly down the turnpike in the police car with the 3 girls cramped together in the front seat. As I get closer to home, I call the 2 girls' mothers to let them know the girls are safe and to meet us at the police station where I originally met Dan. Then I call the FBI and tell them what happened regarding the kidnapping of the 3 girls and myself, where I killed 2 people, one being a police officer. I asked the FBI to meet me at the police station because I don't trust the local police. Anticipating that I will be put into custody, I call my mother to take Grace home to her house. About an hour later, I pull into the police station where I see a mob of people, to include news reporters and law enforcement officials. As I stop the car, I think to myself, as long as Grace and the other girls are safe, I really don't care what happens to me at this point. Hi, I'm Special Agent Aaron Odenowitz from the FBI, and you must be Ted. I'm greeted by a 40-something-year-old male who looks like a taller version of Chuck Norris with rusted orange hair about 2 inches long and a mustache. Yes, I'm Ted. Our local FBI branch in Philadelphia received your phone call and I was asked to hurry over here and talk with you. Okay, but can the girls be set free? They've suffered some horrible psychological trauma and they just need to see their parents and grandparents. Yeah, they can see their loved ones, but they can't leave this area until they're questioned. Girls, you hurt the agent. You can get out of the car. The girls exit from the front passenger door of the patrol car as Special Agent Odenowitz surveys the cruiser. Looks like you shot the police officer in the back seat. Yes, that's correct. He had kicked in the rear window, and rather than risk an altercation with him outside of the car, I fired the shotgun directly into the back seat, hitting him 4 times. Was he holding his handgun at the time you shot him? No, but I knew at any second he could have reached for his gun and shot me. Was that before or after you killed Rosemary? First, I had killed Rosemary in the tent in the woods. I found the girls tied to a tree. After releasing the girls, I fired the shotgun rounds into the tent. How did you know she was in the tent? I asked the girls. So you wouldn't have known if Rosemary was holding a weapon if she was inside the tent? No, I just fired blindly into the tent. I saw the TikTok videos that she posted, and plus I knew that she was an ex-police officer, so I didn't want to get into a gunfight with her. But you didn't see this Rosemary's face in any of the videos? No, just her hand and the police retirement ring on it. Did you ask the girls about their captor? No, the girls have been really quiet, so I didn't want to traumatize them anymore. Officer Dan told me that Rosemary getting fired from the police force, she actually created this whole ruse from the very beginning, where I met her several days ago, and she told me that her name was Carol and that she was Raquel's mother. Ted, because 2 people were killed, I'm going to have to bring you down to the FBI headquarters. Your daughter's with your mother? Yes, that's correct, and I'll answer any questions that you have. I now get into the Special Agent Adanawitz's car, and he takes me to the FBI headquarters. As I'm leaving the scene with him, I see other agents taking pictures of the police car and reporters taking pictures of everyone and everything. I sit in the front seat of the agent's Cadillac Escalade, where the agent starts to ask me more questions. Ted, this whole situation really seems bizarre. Yeah, I know. I really discovered all of this watching a TikTok video. TikTok video that contained the 3 girls, but not really the identity of the captor. Agent Donachowicz says with skepticism. That's correct. Did you talk with any of the girls' mothers? Just Amanda's mother, Joy. Did you talk to her in person or over the phone? Over the phone. Have you ever spoken to her before? No, I just saw her at past school functions, but I never actually conversed with her. How about Raquel's mother? Did you talk with her at all during this ordeal? No, Joy said that she had reached out to Raquel's mother. And how did you get Joy's phone number? Through my wife Sheila's email account. And where has Sheila been through all this? We're actually kind of taking a break at the moment. I tried calling her, but I didn't get an answer, and I'm not sure of her whereabouts. I understand that I just killed 2 people, but I really feel like I'm being treated like a criminal with all of these questions. It's like nothing that I'm saying is being believed or something. We get to the police headquarters, and I'm placed on a holding room by myself for a couple of hours. I keep thinking to myself that whatever I had done, including killing 2 people, I would have done all over again. The girls were tied to a tree in the middle of nowhere. What was I supposed to do? Agent Adanawitz's brings me into what looks like a stereotypical interrogation room, which has 2-way viewing window and everything. Ted, we did some interviews and came up with something interesting. Really? Like what? For starters, we reached out to both Raquel and Amanda's mothers, and neither of them were aware of the yellow school bus or that your daughters were being held captive. But I called and spoke with Amanda's mother. I told her everything. Ted, I'm not doubting that you called and spoke with someone. I'm just telling you that both the mothers had no idea that any of this kidnapping stuff was going on. Didn't the mothers meet the girls at the police barracks? No, the girls just wandered around aimlessly in the parking lot until one of the police officers contacted their mothers. Besides, Grace, whose grandmother was waiting for her. So that wasn't Joy's mother that I was talking to. Probably not. Then who was she? Detective Adanawitz's doesn't answer the question because he either doesn't know the answer or he's choosing not to answer the question. What about Officer Dan? Yes, Officer Dan, the agent says with a smirk attitude. You mean the officer who broke just about every departmental policy by driving you up north past Scranton without even notifying anyone? Yeah, but I was under the impression that he contacted his captain. Well, his captain told me that he had no idea of his whereabouts and they had to use the patrol car built-in navigational finder to help find his body. Yes, because Rosemary and Dan were kind of working together. What about Carol? Special Agent Adanawitz's asked me. Carol and Rosemary were the same person. Rosemary had introduced herself to being Carol, Raquel's mother. No, they aren't the same person. Carol is actually Raquel's mother. Wait, what? I say with skepticism. We met with Carol and Raquel, and we are certain that Carol is alive and she's doing well. So, what am I missing here? There was someone who was playing head games with multiple people, someone who it looks like really wasn't interested in harming the girls, but was using them as a ploy to distract you. Let me show you 2 pictures, one of Rosemary, one of Carol. Officer Adanawitz's shows me the 2 photos on his phone and says, Carol and Rosemary look enough alike, where you could be mistaken of their identities. Yeah, now that I look both of their photos together, I can kind of see their resemblance. I was in such a stressed out state that the Carol I saw days ago looks similar enough to the Rosemary who picked up Grace. So I'll just get to the point in all this. I feel that your wife Sheila had planned all of this from the very beginning. She had asked Rosemary to pick up your daughter in a blue Mercury Sable from your house because I'm guessing that she said that she wanted to avoid a conflict with you. Rosemary in turn thought that Sheila was taking the girls on the camping trip. So Rosemary dropped your daughter off at an undisclosed area where Sheila was waiting with the yellow school bus. Amanda and Raquel's mothers had dropped their daughters off as well, because Sheila was actually the Girl Scout leader for this weekend's trip. Originally, Carol had volunteered to take on a leadership role. However, Sheila insisted, so Carol obliged. How did Sheila know Rosemary? I asked in complete confusion. Sheila was having an affair with Officer Dan. Dan knew the whole time that you were Sheila's husband. He did have an affair with Rosemary as well, but he wasn't interested in Rosemary, but Rosemary was very much interested in Dan. So are you saying that Sheila was using Dan and Dan was using Rosemary? Yes, pretty much that summarizes the situation. Dan thought that you and Rosemary were going to look like the culprits, where himself and Sheila would start a new life together. Since Dan never told his captain that he was going up north, he thought once he and Rosemary were put into custody or dead, he would just return back to work the next day like nothing happened. You know that this level of deceit by Sheila is truly mind-blowing. She actually knew that her own daughter was being kidnapped the whole time, I say while rubbing my right hand on top of my head. Yeah, after talking to the girls, it seems like Sheila was yelling and screaming at them on the bus to make them look petrified for her TikTok videos. Sheila drove them up north to Rosemary's family property, where Rosemary eventually met them. I do think that in Rosemary's mind, she was going to rescue the girls. However, she was just being used as a pawn the whole time. So why did Sheila turn on her own daughter and me? After looking through your financial accounts, it looks like she discovered the large inheritance you received from your now deceased aunt that I'm guessing you had hidden from her. Okay, I might have done that, but why would she turn on her own daughter? She probably felt that you were going to start a new life, so she made the presumptive first strike and beat you to it. How did she beat me to it? She wiped out all your bank accounts to include your inheritance when you were up north trying to save the girls. She wiped everything you owned. That can't be. She did. Joy and Carol actually suggested Sheila as being the culprit, so we searched all her bank accounts and anything linked to her. So you can just put a freeze on all her assets? No, because once she was able to get a hold of all your money, she then transferred all the money into a cryptocurrency account. Where is she? We have no idea. So she created all this mayhem to include 2 people getting killed because I hid my aunt's inheritance. If you look at the timeline when she met Officer Dan, then logically that would have been the best motive or make the most sense. Part 7. Time kind of stood still when I absorbed the news that my wife's goal was for me to die and that the fact that she used our daughter to lure me away from our house and to steal my money. Perhaps I wasn't the biggest saint in the whole ordeal. Yes, my aunt did leave me $400,000 in her estate, which I intentionally hid from Sheila. However, there are legal ways of claiming partial ownership of the money through the court systems and not by attempting to have me killed and terrorizing our daughter. The whole night I felt nothing but anger, but now I feel bad that I had caused all this mess. Our marriage was on the rocks because I was bored, but it turns out Sheila is anything but boring. I was so wrong about Sheila that the thought never even crossed my mind that she was involved in any circumstances of kidnapping. Everything that happened tonight is making me think that an awful person I have become to make Sheila do such horrible things. She was perfectly content with me as a husband and Grace as a daughter. However, the endless prediction rut of our daily routines felt like I was being suffocated and I wanted to jump a ship. Why not? My dad did that when I was 6 years old, where I would see him on every other Saturday per his agreement. He could have elected to see me more often, but he opted for the every other Saturday, which was more like I only saw him once every month because of work. I thought that my dad's type of lifestyle would suit me better with all of the new freedoms that I would have, but now I feel nothing but emptiness. I think to myself, who wants middle-aged guy who has been through the mill anyways, if I had left Sheila? Besides, feeling lost and empty, I also have a tween daughter that needs my help being mended back together from all the psychological trauma that happened tonight and from her mother leaving her. I was asked by the Special Agent Donowitz if I knew where Sheila could possibly be hiding, and I told him that I had no clue. However, I know exactly where she's hiding. Once she transferred my money into her Bitcoin accounts, she must have took a flight to Paris, then a train to Ville, France, We visited there before Grace was born, and she always said that she wanted nothing more than to live in that town along the Mediterranean coast of the French Riviera. The only problem now is that there are 2 people dead on account of me killing them, and though I was being set up, which backfired on Rosemary and Officer Dan, Sheila was the ringleader, who caused all these things to transpire in the first place. Sheila masterminded this whole ordeal on account of me pushing her over the edge when I intentionally hid the inheritance money. I wonder if something like this ever happened before, where a wife conspires to basically get her husband killed, but then her husband killed 2 unarmed people, and now the husband wants to get back with the wife. I would think at least one of us would have to take responsibility for all the mayhem that transpired, to include the murders of 2 people. But I wonder if the charges could be lessened to maybe manslaughter, so one or both of us wouldn't have to spend the rest of our lives behind bars. The only problem is that for me to get off on the charges, I would have to implicate Sheila, and for Sheila to get off on the charges, she would need to prove her lack of involvement. I think to myself that I could just lie and say that I was aware of Sheila transferring the money out of my account, and that we had an open marriage where she was allowed to date Officer Dan, but once again the perjury aspect could come back to haunt me. Another hurdle that I needed to get over was that I'm essentially out of money and the only asset I have is my house. So how can I hire a quality lawyer, I think to myself. All the arrows point to me going to the Mediterranean, where Sheila has a ton of money and she is still Grace's mother. I have a paycheck to cash that would cover the cost of the trip, so I pick up Grace from my mother's house and bring her to the airport. Agent Adonatovich told me that I would probably need to come in for further questioning, but he didn't tell me that I couldn't travel or leave the country. I don't want to ask him on account that he might say no or figure out that I'm going to see Sheila. Grace and I take an 8-hour flight to Milan, Italy, where the both of us slept the whole flight. Then we get on a train headed towards the French Riviera town in Villefranche. Grace hardly says a word the whole trip. I can see the betrayal in her eyes in account of her mother, though deep down inside I know that I'm ultimately responsible for all this mess. I turned on Sheila, and in turn Sheila turned on Grace and I. Who is more wrong? I think to myself, and I could only conclude that I don't know, but probably me. As Grace and I sit on the train, her eyes seem so lifeless. I thought that Sheila would have done the same thing that my mother did when my father left us, where Sheila would be the primary caregiver to Grace, but I triggered some type of animal instinct inside of Sheila, where she in turn has rejected Grace. I can't help but start to cry as I look at Grace and see the damage that I've caused. It's the worst feeling for me to know that my daughter has been rejected by her own mother. I try my best to think that things could possibly get better once we find Sheila and we become a cohesive unit once again. Then there's another part of me that says this might be a big waste of time, where we don't even find Sheila or she continues to reject us. Also, I can't completely rule out that the notion that she might try to harm us. Given the fact that she was ultimately trying to get me killed, I would say anything is possible. The train follows along the water as it takes a stop at Cannes, France. I know that we're not far from Villefranche as I try to comfort Grace. I start to see the old homes perched along the mountainside and know that we're only a few minutes away, as I distinctly recognize this area from us visiting close to 15 years ago. The train stops at Villefranche and Grace and I get off the train. I brought only a backpack worth of clothing items for one night stay. I'm rolling the dice on the fact that everything will be settled in one day, either positively or negatively. The good thing is that the town isn't very big and can be traversed in an hour's time. South of the train station is a beach, and north of the train station is a medieval-looking town with different specialty shops. You won't find any type of big supermarkets, but instead small bakeries and butcher shops, where the town has been operating that way for over hundreds of years. Sandwiched in between Cannes and the small affluent country of Monaco, it's easy to blend in here amongst the many other tourists. We walk down this small beach area that is lined with pebbles. Grace kind of looks out into the water, but doesn't show any type of enthusiasm. I see only young kids and older people sunbathing, so we head back up the hill towards the market area. As Grace and I start walking up the hill, she starts to cry. "What's the matter, honey?" I say, where she just puts her head down and doesn't respond. I really didn't even explain to her the reasons why we're in the small French town, because I didn't want to stress her out any further. As I hold Grace's hand walking up the hill, I say holy shit out loud as I see Sheila walking down the hill towards a train station. Sheila doesn't recognize us yet as she walked with her head down. I quickly survey the area and notice that there's no one else around. As Sheila takes bigger steps to compensate for going down the steep hill, she slowly raises her head at the same time Grace raises her head. Both Sheila and Grace lock eyes on each other, as I see the shock and despair in both of their eyes. I take a few steps back and move a little bit laterally to not interfere with this moment that is transpiring between the two of them. The saddest part is that if this was any less than 2 months ago, Grace would have yelled out mommy and ran towards her mother in excitement, but now Grace just stands in one spot crying. It's the worst thing for a mother to reject her own daughter, so I know this moment is really pivotal of Grace's mental health healing. I move away even further from Grace as I don't want to hinder Sheila from approaching Grace on account of me. As I step further away, Sheila, who's hysterically crying, moves towards Grace at a rapid pace. Sheila embraces Grace, where Grace's arms remain at her sides, and I can hear Sheila say, I'm sorry, over and over again. Part of me wants to step in front of the oncoming train so the two of them could completely mend their relationship and blame everything on me. And the other part of me isn't sure if Sheila's spewing crocodile tears or if she's truly remorseful and wants to mend a relationship with at least Grace. Part 8. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so ashamed of what I've done to you, Sheila says to Grace. Grace picks up her head towards her mom. Grace looks completely vulnerable, like a deer with a broken leg, where a part of her is saying, help me, and another part of her is saying, what are you going to do with me next? Sheila strokes Grace's hair as I stay far enough to not come off as a threat to Sheila or interfere with the two of them being reunited. I'm still dumbfounded that I am in Villa, France, where just a few hours ago I was being questioned on the deaths of two people who I admittedly killed. However, my wife was the ringleader of that sinister plot, where she also terrorized our own daughter and tried to frame me and is ultimately responsible for the deaths of Officer Dan and Rosemary. But I'm here, I think to myself. I'm not completely innocent for everything that transpired, because less than 48 hours I was searching the internet looking for a potential date, and here I am now, trying to reconcile with a woman who tried to kill me and who had abandoned her own daughter. I try to bury those thoughts as deep down as possible because I know that I hid the inheritance money and was planning on leaving the house. It's just that I can't stop thinking these thoughts while I watch Sheila interact with Grace. Another part of me is thinking if all of this is just a show. Sheila obviously saw me step away from the two of them, so she knows that I'm watching them. After a few minutes, I step in and say, "Hi Sheila, I'm glad that we found you." "Hi Ted, thank you for traveling thousands of miles to see me. I guess you remembered me saying how much I love it here." "Yes, I remember all too well when we came here before our Grace was born, and we took the train to Monte Carlo Casino in Monaco. We had so much fun." "Yeah, we sure did." Grace stood beside Sheila as things got awkward silent for a few minutes. To break the silence, I said, "Listen, that was really awful of me hiding the inheritance money that my aunt gave me." "Is that why you're here, to get your money back?" "No, Grace and I are here for you. I don't care about the money. We're just here to see you." "Oh, that's sweet, Todd. I wasn't sure how we were going to approach me about the money. Listen, I know the two of you must be hungry, so why don't you come to my apartment I'm renting?" "Okay, that sounds good." As we walk to her apartment, which is situated above all the stores in the market area, I can't help to think how strange this feels walking with my wife to her apartment. But I guess this is how these things turn out when people get separated. We get to her apartment, which is located above a bakery. She has a really nice view of the water from her apartment, and I know this is something that she has dreamt about as far as living here. Grace and I sit in the living room couch as Sheila runs around trying to straighten up the apartment. "Do you guys want something to eat or water to drink?" Sheila asks us. "Water would be great," I say as Grace shakes her head yes. Sheila runs to the kitchen and pours 2 cups of water, then brings them to the living room where we are sitting. She hands me the cup and I take a big gulp. Then I place the cup down at the end of the table next to the lamp. As I put down the cup, I see a piece of paper tucked behind the lamp. I can see Sheila doing the dishes, so I grab the paper and look at it. It's a receipt dated over 2 weeks ago, and I say, "What the hell?" out loud to myself in a low tone. I look at the receipt and see 2 entrees were ordered, which included a steak tartare and a quiche. She has been traveling to this place for more than just yesterday, and who is she eating dinner with? I think to myself. I have the address to the restaurant, which is only a 5-minute walk. I really want to dig up some more information about Sheila, but I don't want to be confrontational with her, and I expect that she would lie to me anyways. I'm now stuck in a dilemma where I just can't leave with Grace to go to the restaurant, and I don't know if I feel safe leaving Grace alone with Sheila. I know I have to go to the restaurant to talk to the staff members, so I make the painful decision to say, Sheila, I'm going to step out for some fresh air. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, that's fine. Take your time. I give Grace a hug as she remains seated on the couch. She looks completely vulnerable, like a 3-month-old sitting in a high chair, but I know that I have to get my questions answered. I walk as fast as I could to the restaurant, where I even start to jog. The restaurant looks out to the water, which seems to be a repeating theme to the prime real estate locations in this area. I walk up the wooden steps to the restaurant, and I'm greeted by a smiling hostess in her early 30s. She's used to dealing with tourists, so she waits for me to talk. That way, she knows what the language she should speak. Hello, I'm thinking about throwing a surprise party here for my sister. I think she's been here before, I'm not sure. Is it okay if I show you a picture of her on my phone? With my American egocentric mindset that everyone in the world speaks English, I was actually lucky when she repeated, yeah, sure. I pull out my camera and show the hostess several pictures of Sheila. Oh yes, I recognize her. She's been here many times, she says with a thick French accent. Oh really, many times this past couple of weeks? No, my family owns this restaurant, so I've been working here since I was in school. I've seen her in here for years. For years? I say as my heart sinks to the floor. Yes, for years. You said her name is Sheila, right? You even know her name? Yes, she always asks me where I bought a particular clothing item or where she should shop. I feel completely lost, like someone just hit me over the head with a frying pan. I gather myself and ask, who does she usually come with? She always comes with Andre Aubert, who actually graduated from the university with my brother. And the 2 of them have been coming here for years. Yes. Do you think over 10 years? The hostess thinks for a moment and says, oh yes, over 10 years. I'm in complete shock because she must have met this man when her and I visited here. Then she must have been flying away on secret rendezvous. I always thought she was underpaid as a cardiac stent sales representative. I'm not thinking that a good portion of the times when she had to travel for work, she was actually coming here, and she must have had a secret bank account where her job was depositing her sales commissions. I have some kind of mental illness. How did I not pick up on this? I think to myself. I think back to the last time we were here, and I do remember her talking to someone by the hotel we were staying at, and then later at the casino. But I really didn't think much about it, because she was young and attractive, so I thought he was just having casual conversations with a pretty American. I snap out of my thoughts and say thank you for the information to the hostess. Did you still want to book your surprise party here? You know what, I have other family members here in town, so let me talk it over with them. Please don't mention this to Sheila, as I don't want to give away the surprise. Sure, no problem. It was nice to meet you. Yes, it was nice to meet you as well. I then step out of the restaurant and think to myself, with this view of the water, I don't think there's anything more romantic than this. I now focus my attention back to Grace and her safety. I walk as fast as I can as I think to myself that I have to be evaluated by a psychologist for being completely naive about everything. For not only was she traveling thousands of miles, she was having at least one more affair on me. God knows if she has another side piece at her work as well. Good thing she's a woman, where at least I know she doesn't have a bunch of kids spread out across the globe, because as naive as I am, I would hope that I would be able to see that she was pregnant at some point. I start to jog back to Sheila's apartment as I continuously shake my head back and forth, and I'm left in total disbelief. But I know I have to switch gears to Grace's safety. I really have no idea if Sheila has done anything sinister with Grace, as I can see the apartment is about a mile away. The thoughts of Grace being harmed make me do a full-blown sprint. I get to the entrance of the apartment where I'm gasping for air. Ted, are you okay? Sheila says to me as I try to catch my breath. I really don't know how to respond, so I say, boy, I'm getting old. I see that Sheila was sitting next to Grace, where Sheila was actually braiding Grace's hair. The two of them look like they're involved in their typical mother and daughter type of bonding experience, but I know there are many more layers involved with Sheila and her relationship with Grace. I sit down in a desk chair located adjacent to the couch. This poor kid has completely sociopaths of parents, where I've been planning my departure from this family, and Sheila has been traveling thousands of miles before Grace was born to have an extramarital affair on me. I think to myself, is Grace even my child? She has to be, because all I heard for years from my mother is how much she looks like me. Now I'm questioning if my mother really genuinely thought that way, or she was just trying to build my relationship up with Grace so I wouldn't leave her like my father left me. I'm now dealing with someone who tried to have me killed, was responsible for 2 people's death, terrorized our own daughter, and posted the videos on TikTok for the world to see. Had a shallow affair with a local policeman, was secretly leaving the country, is involved in a long-term affair with another man for well over a decade, and has wiped my bank account clean. So what do? Grace seems to be warming back up to her as if she was mom again. I don't know if I should ask her if she wants to come back to the United States, or if I should even stay in her apartment tonight, because she might try to kill me and type up a suicide note where I would take full responsibility for the deaths of Officer Dan and Rosemary. Heck, I'm not even sure if her goal is to get rid of herself of Grace. She has over $400,000 and is now living in her dream location with her fling. So is Grace just going to be a nuisance to her? I stay seated in my chair and study Sheila, as I have no idea how I should proceed. Part 9. As I watch Grace cuddle up to her mother, I'm completely lost to how I should proceed with her mother, especially after finding out that she's been cheating on me since we first got married. Watching the 2 of them act as mother and daughter again is all I wanted. However, Sheila has not been honest about anything. So why should I trust her that she actually cares about Grace? With no other options available to me, I decide to confront Sheila right in front of Grace. Why did you do it, Sheila? Do what? You know what you did. Are you wearing a wire, Ted? No, there's no one listening to this conversation, and I'm not taping this conversation. I don't want to talk about this in front of Grace. It's better she hears how fucked up both of you and I are. Ted, this isn't appropriate. Start talking. Okay, where do you want me to start? Why are you here, or better yet, why did you try to have me killed? Why don't you just leave my apartment? I could leave, but that will force me to call the police and tell them where you're located. If you do that, then we're over. If I do that, then you go to jail for the rest of your life. For what? For terrorizing 3 Girl Scout cookies and for manipulating Officer Dan and Rosemary into your sinister plot to frame me for kidnapping the 3 girls, which turned into 2 of them being killed with a shotgun. So you think I'm responsible for the 2 of them dying, which until now I wasn't even aware that they were dead? Sheila, the story has been plastered all over the news. Don't lie to me and say you didn't know that Dan and Rosemary are dead. I met the FBI agent specialist Donowitz, who unraveled your whole plot. And he thinks I killed Dan and Rosemary. No, he knows you tried to frame me by using these 2 people who were supposed to have killed me, but I got the upper hand and killed them instead. The upper hand? Yeah, I managed to kill them before they killed me. How were they going to kill you? Did you struggle with them before you killed them? Well, no, but what, Ted? What is your motive for killing them? You were sending TikTok videos where the girls looked horrified and ultimately discovered them tied to a tree in the middle of nowhere without the consent of us parents. Well, first of all, Ted, they're 11-year-old girls. How many times has Grace refused to go to the bathroom because there was a horrific spider in the room that was terrorizing her? Perhaps tying the girls to a tree was just a spooky camping prank to try to scare them. Obviously, Grace wasn't harmed, and I'm certain Amanda and Raquel weren't harmed either. Further, I hate to break this news to you, Ted, but I'm Grace's mother, so I'm not sure how you would consider that kidnapping. Honestly, you killed Dan and Rosemary because they were actively trying to harm you, or you thought they were going to harm you and the girls. You're so manipulative, Sheila. You hadn't seen Grace for weeks, and all of a sudden you're a parent again? Your crappy plan backfired on you. Admit it. The FBI sees you as a ringleader in your kidnapping scheme of the 3 girls and the deaths of 2 people. That's your summary, Ted. Haven't you seen the videos of police interrogating people where the cops will sympathize with someone just to get the criminal to confess to something? I told the FBI the truth. Yeah, you told them that you murdered 2 people. No, I told the FBI I killed them in self-defense. That's in your mind, Ted. Were either Rosemary or Dan threatening you with a weapon, or did you just assume that they were going to try to kill you? Well, tying 3 girls to a tree in the middle of the night definitely warrants someone getting hurt. Does it? Did you ask the girls if they were harmed before you killed the 2 of them? The video shows that. No, the videos don't show the girls being harmed because it was just a prank, Ted. The whole thing was just a big prank. Prank? You're crazy, Sheila. First, you leave us. Then you have an affair with Officer Dan. Then you terrorize 3 girls, one being your own daughter. Then you post videos of the girls being terrorized on TikTok. Then you don't notify anyone that you're taking the girls to the campground that they were supposed to be going to. Then I figure out that Rosemary, who's an ex-cop, was trying to become a hero, where she was going to kill me once I came onto her property with Officer Dan, who didn't even bother to tell anyone that he took a police cruiser because he was having an affair with you and was ultimately going to help Rosemary kill me. And how much of that can you prove, Ted? Special Agent Donowitz has already figured out your sinister plot. No, he got you to confess to 2 murders. Well, if that's true, then why wasn't I arrested on the spot? Because the police nor the FBI probably saw you as a flight risk, and there's probably still gathering evidence. Also, how do you know they're not watching you right now? Did you tell them you were going to France? No, I didn't tell them I was leaving the country. Why would they be watching me? Maybe because you killed 2 people and want to watch what you're going next? They have no reason to watch me because I told them everything already. Why did I leave you, Ted, before any of this stuff happened? Because you're a whore. Why don't you explain why you're here and explain Andre? Ted, you killed 2 people with a shotgun who weren't in the process of harming you. You have some deep-rooted anger issues. I don't know if they stem from your father leaving you or something else, but you have some deep-rooted issues. I left you because I was scared of you. You were so scared of me that you left Grace with me. If I didn't leave Grace with you, then you would have killed me like you killed Dan and Rosemary. You're such a manipulative bitch. You see, Ted, your anger. Don't you fucking tell me about anger. You've been lying and fucking Andre for how many years now? That's real nice thing to say in front of your 11-year-old daughter. Grace is crying while sitting on the couch where she is so frightened to move because of all the hostility in the living room apartment. I'm sorry, Grace, but your mother is a lying whore who has been coming here before you were even born and playing mommy with some other guy. Ted, I want you to leave right now. Go fuck yourself. Give me my $400K, then I'll leave. Ted, get out of here right now. Listen, you manipulative whore. Your days are outnumbered. You fooled me for way too many years. Sheila yells and screams and pushes me towards the door. Get out. Get the fuck out of here. My emotions got the best of me as I make a fist and punch her in the nose. She falls onto the floor and blood pushes from her nose. Then I hear multiple people come running up from the apartment steps where a man yells, "The police are here." 5 French policemen storm through the door as Sheila is laying on the ground looking up at me. I say, "You bitch, you called them before, didn't you? You set me up again." The police put me in handcuffs and take me outside the apartment to question me. I plead with them to take Sheila into custody as well, but since Sheila is crying hysterically and I have no bruises on me, I'm the only one who's taken to jail. I have no money, so I can't get bail out now. My daughter is with some manipulative psychopath and I can't do anything about it. Part 10. I'm put into a jail cell in Nice, France. I explained to the French detective the situation involving Sheila, who was skeptical at first, but was starting to believe me after he spoke with my daughter Grace. However, the big problem I'm having now is that I'm showing a pattern of violence, where I've killed 2 people and I punched my wife in the nose. Prior to just a few hours, I hadn't been in any kind of fight since high school, but now I'm trying to convince a French police detective to let me out of jail. The jail is horrible, where I'm sharing a cell with a short, fat man, whose shirt comes down to his belly button and his belly protrudes through the shirt. The man reeks of alcohol and body odor. The magistrate sets my bail to the equivalent of $2,000, and I beg my mother to wire me the money so I can get out. I get out of jail and take a train back to Villefranche. On the train, I think to myself that I'm not a violent person, but when your own wife tries to have you killed and finding out that she's been having an affair for the past 15 years really brought out the dark side of me. I think to myself, if Mr. Rogers' wife did the same thing to him, would he have responded the same way? I would say the answer would be probably, and I would go as far as to say yes. When the train arrives at Villafrance station, I say under my breath, I'm really starting to hate this fucking place. I defy the magistrate's order and go to Sheila's apartment. I knock repeatedly on the door, but no one answers. I'm starting to feel like a New York City taxi driver, where I look and feel completely exhausted. The only thing that is keeping me going is the thought of my daughter's safety. Fearing the worst, but trying my best to keep cool, I take out my almost maxed out credit card and use it to pick the lock at Sheila's apartment. As I walk through the apartment, it doesn't take long to realize that both Grace and Sheila are gone. I don't have the slightest clue to where they might have gone, so I go into Sheila's bedroom to search through whatever she has left in the apartment. In the bedroom closet of Sheila's apartment, I see an older Dell laptop. I open the laptop and guess at the password. Judging that the laptop is at least 10 years old, I try to remember what were the possible passwords that she might have used at that time. Then I remembered that Grace had a Tickle Me Elmo doll, so I used Elmo 9, which miraculously worked. As if the thought of being in my wife's apartment wasn't shocking enough, now I'm looking through her laptop, which I had no idea existed. I went through the different files she created, which were mostly work type of junk, but then I came across a file that contained an Excel worksheet that had a list of foreign girl names that were living in France. Some of the girls were from French colonies in Africa, and some were from the poorer countries in Europe, like Romania. I look at the creation date of the file and it says February 17, 2012, which makes me wonder if Sheila mistakenly forgot to delete this file. Each of the girls on the Excel spreadsheet was a full rundown of each of their personal characteristics to include their blood type, vital signs, hair type, eye color, and their overall general health. There is also a phone number and address listed for each of the girls. I really have no idea why Sheila has this information on these girls. If she were a man, maybe I would think that she's some kind of stalker or something, but I'm really drawing a blank why she created this list of the girls. I try calling some of the phone numbers and each one is either disconnected or no one answers. I look at some of the addresses and I focus on the nearest one. I see an address for a girl listed in Nice, France, so I decided to take the train back to Nice. I walk over to the small train station at Villafrance. I purchase a ticket to Nice and also ask the ticket salesman if she saw an American woman and a tween girl come through the station. She replied that she remembered two people who fit their description, where the woman purchased one ticket headed towards the Genova Brignole train station in Italy, which probably meant that the two of them were headed back to Milan to catch a train back to the United States. I figured that before I go to Milan, I would stop off at Nice to see if a woman named Krona still resides in the apartment listed. I put in the girl's address on my phone and it looks like she lives or had lived above a tavern in Nice. I really just wanted to head back to the United States, but the weirdness of the file on Sheila's laptop is compelling me to dig deeper. I arrive at Nice train station and walk the mile to the tavern. I think about all the possibilities that I might uncover if I actually get to speak with Krona. The possibilities are endless of what I might uncover, and I'm leaning towards her and Andre having some type of sex perversion involving this girl and other females as well. The tavern has a separate entrance that leads to an upstairs apartment. The whole French Riviera looks upper middle class, as well as this tavern. There's a door buzzer with a push button communicator that allows a person downstairs to talk to the person upstairs. I push the button on the communicator box, and after a few moments, a woman's voice says, "Bonjour." "Bonjour. I'm sorry, but I only speak English." "Okay, I can understand you. What do you want?" "My name is Ted, and I'm looking for Krona." "Why do you want to talk to Krona?" "I was looking through my wife's laptop, and there's a Krona listed in a file that she created who has blonde hair, blue eyes, a B-positive blood type, and was from the old French colony of Angola." After saying that, I hear a buzz sound where Krona must have unlocked the door to allow me to go upstairs. I walk up the stairs, and there's another door on the top of the stairs that I gently knock on. I'm thinking to myself that her family must have been one of the Caucasian farmers who lived in Africa, and Krona decided to move to France. The apartment door opens and I say "holy shit" in a slow whisper voice when I see that the girl who answers the door is obviously missing both of her eyes. It's a real unnatural sight to see this woman, who can't be more than 30 years old, where she has empty cavities where her eyeballs should be. Hi Krona, I came to your apartment because I was curious to see why your name was on my wife's computer. Also, like I said, my wife had you listed as having blue eyes. However, you have no eyes. I've never spoken to anyone who is missing their eyes, so it's hard for me to gauge her reaction to me. In a heavily accented tone, Corona says, my parents were French citizens living in Africa when they gave birth to me. They owned a farm, but they were killed when I was 18 years old by an uprising against rich white landowners. The government took my family land, and I was left desolate. I was searching on the internet on a way for someone to sponsor me to get to France, when I came across a man named Andre who worked for a French international whose company helped people who were living in a previous colony of France. Andre's company paid for my flight to come over here, and they even helped me secure this apartment. I think to myself that this Andre must be Sheila's fling and seems like a noble cause of helping disenfranchised people come to France. So what happened when he came to Nice? I met with Andre and a woman who was with him. Do you remember her name? I can't recall her name. Was it Sheila? Yes, that was her name. However, she nor Andre ever gave me their last names. So what happened when you met them? The two of them picked me up late one night in a car where Andre drove, and they took me to a remote village where they told me there was a farmer there who was looking for help. When we got there, Andre took a blood sample from me, and the two of them asked me questions about my general health. We did nothing for the remainder of the night and eventually fell asleep in the farmhouse. When I woke up, they fed me breakfast, and around lunchtime, I could hear Sheila say that she's B positive, where she was referring to my blood type. Andre gave me fresh cow's milk, which was made me really sleepy within 20 minutes. When I woke up 5 days later, I was in this apartment and I had this painful feeling around my eyes. When I tried to open them, I couldn't see anything. When I opened my eyes, so I started to put my finger around my eyes and noticed that there was nothing there. Oh my god, that is the most horrible thing I've ever heard. Did you go to the police? Yes, I stumbled down the stairs and went into the cavern where I begged for help. The police came and questioned me at the hospital, and the only information I could give them was Andre and Sheila's first names. The French international company was a dummy account, and the police couldn't trace the company to any type of ownership. It was so dark out that I didn't even know the area or the name of the town they took me to. The police couldn't find them. No, they told me that they were searching for them with whatever information that I gave them, but they were never able to find them, so now I sit in this apartment all day on disability. Why do you think they removed your eyes? I've wondered the same thing for the past decade, and the only thing I can conclude is that they sold my blue eyes. That's horrible. I live in fear most days, thinking that they'll come back for my kidneys or my heart. Listen, Krona, I'm really sorry this happened to you. I will turn over the laptop to the French police, which won't bring your vision back, but it will hopefully find you justice. Please do. I really want the two of them to suffer the same way I have. I'm really shocked by everything that I'm learning about Sheila. I really wish my aunt never left that money, so I could have just buried my head in the sand to everything that I have learned about her. I can't believe she's selling people's organs. I always thought her job was cardiac stent saleswoman. I really need to find Grace now, and the both of us need to get as far away from Sheila as possible. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. It took a lot of recording and re-recording on some parts. I'm sorry if I mispronounced some words. There were some words in there that I did not recognize, and I tried my best copying what Google said they sounded like. This story is not finished yet, and I am following the person who is writing it, but I can't guarantee that there's going to be any updates soon. Hopefully there will be. I will be making a second part to this video to hopefully finish the story. It's a really interesting one, and it's one of the stories that I've loved so far. And if you like these type of videos and you want to see more, maybe drop a like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!